Hurricane Katrina ravaged the Gulf Coast region in September of 2005. It slammed into Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama and caused widespread damage and destruction. Not only did the Category 4 winds cause massive destruction to houses and property, but the toxic muddy waters that flooded New Orleans when the levee broke caused total devastation. What was once a vibrant city full of life was now a silent, deserted place of utter destruction. Houses were underwater for weeks, and in some areas the water washed the whole house away, leaving only a foundation behind. The rubble you see here was people's possessions, their homes, and their lives. In a matter of days, their world was turned upside down. There was loss of human life and loss of animal life. You may wonder just how any creature could survive such a force of nature as this. But unbelievably, there were thousands of animals that did survive. They made it by swimming to higher ground, clinging to floating debris, or climbing up trees or onto rooftops. They fought daily to survive. What you cannot see by the pictures was the intense silence of no one around. When the waters receded, all the people were gone, the food was gone, and there was no water. These precious animals needed help, human help. It was up to us to save them. That's where animal rescue people came in. We came from all over the United States, and we were there for many months after the hurricane. I traveled to New Orleans with a group called Best Friends Animal Society in October of 2005, nearly 2 months after the tragedy hit. We stayed in an area of downtown which only endured minimal flooding and met every day at 6 a.m. at a staging area. We would have our meetings of updates and progress reports. We were given instructions each day on what areas to search. Some rescuers searched for animals, and some rescuers left food and water for the ones we couldn't catch. So many wonderful people from around the country donated food, water, crates, bedding, and medical supplies. Once we found an animal and contained it in a crate, we would return to the staging area, which was also our triage. This is where the veterinarians would stand by to take in the animals, give them immediate medical care, hydrate them, and give them food and water. Once they were treated, then we gave them a nice, warm, dry bed to sleep in. They were safe at last. As we drove through the city to get to our designated search areas, we passed the convention center and the Superdome. These two places were where most people came when they evacuated their homes. Sadly, at the time, no animals were allowed to stay there, so people had to leave their beloved best friends behind. We traveled to an area called St. Bernard Parish. People there were starting to come back to their houses and clean them out. The muddy waters saturated inside most houses up to their ceilings. Not all houses could be cleaned though. Most of them had to eventually be bulldozed down. Some of these people only went in to see what items they could salvage. Unfortunately, due to many houses being deserted, some very dishonest people thought that gave them the right to go in and steal things. Looting was a very big problem there. In a small fishing village nearest to the Gulf Delta, where the 30-foot water surge washed all the houses miles inland, this man was able to keep some sense of humor. Even though his house had washed completely away except for the front steps, he had a sign out in front that read, "To the looter, I guess losing my house, all my belongings, and my way of life wasn't enough, so you had to steal my gas can too." We found this beautiful black dog in a very deserted neighborhood. She was so scared she wouldn't come to us except when we gave her food. Only then would she get close, but not close enough to slip a leash around her neck. Unfortunately, we never did catch her that day, but we did give her food and water, and another rescue group went back and caught her a few days later. She was starving, thirsty, and scared. We drove around the lower 9th Ward, which was hit the worst and had total devastation. This area was flooded twice, once when the levees broke and the second time when Hurricane Rita hit. We went from neighborhood to neighborhood, talking to the people that were there, getting any information that we could on animals that they had seen roaming around. We would search deserted houses, and if there was signs of life, but we couldn't see an animal or catch an animal, we would leave them food and water. We documented everything we did, the houses that we stopped at, the houses where we found an animal, and we documented where we left food and water so that other rescuers could come back the next day and check on them. This sweet little brown dog wanted so badly to come to us, but she was very scared. We enticed her with some food until we could get a leash on her. Then, once she trusted us, she gave us thank you kisses. I think she was a very happy dog. This poor little dog was trapped in the gymnasium of a middle school. A neighbor said he had heard a bark coming from this building, so we went to check it out. We found her tied up to a filing cabinet, but later we found out that she wasn't tied, but that her leash had gotten stuck under the filing cabinet. She had not had food for at least a month. She was very emaciated, skin and bones, and she may not have made it if we hadn't found her. We fed her food, and that allowed us to get close to her. You know, there is always a danger that a dog might be aggressive, but not this one. She was the sweetest, most submissive dog I've ever seen. We untied her from the leash that was stuck under a filing cabinet and put a lead on her. We finally got her out from behind the filing cabinet. She was very, very scared, as you can tell by the tail tucked under her rump. We untied her leash and took off her collar, which practically slipped off because she had lost so much weight. We put on a lead so that we could finally take her out of the building. She was so hungry, she was just gulping the food. We had to limit her intake so she wouldn't get too sick. Most dogs that are this emaciated do get a little sick once they start eating food again. We finally got her out of the room, and she seemed to be happy just to be on the move. We finally got her out of the building and gave her water. She was very hesitant, but she did let us take care of her. I'm sure she was excited that someone had finally come for her. This was a very happy day for the dog and a success for the rescue team. Amid all the sadness, a happy moment like this made all of our efforts worth it. 1 month later, when the owner was finally found, CNN did a news story on the reunion. They used some of my photos and video. Here it is.
When Katrina hit, residents of St. Bernard Parish fled for cover to Beauregard Middle School. a lot of people, about 50, 60 people, evacuated to that point and brought their animals with us because they told us we could bring our animals.
But when it came time to evacuate, they had to leave their dogs behind.
They up and told us then that we couldn't take any of the animals with us, which everybody really went ballistic on us, you know, because nobody, that was like leaving your kids behind.
They left messages for rescuers begging them to save the dogs they were forced to abandon.
This is the building I found her in, right here. I started throwing her wet food. Went up to her, she did it out of my hand, and by this time she was just very, extremely trembling and very scared. Very scared.
They got to her just in time.
It was extremely emaciated. She just, you could tell she had not had food for weeks.
Today, almost 3 months after he left her, Chris Acosta was reunited with Mercedes. He doesn't know how or even when she escapes. He just knows he's happy to have her back.
I love this animal with all my heart, and I'm just grateful to get her back, and if it wasn't for these people, maybe that would have never ever been possible.
Once the rescued animals were brought into the staging area in New Orleans, they were loaded into big trucks and driven with care to a place called Tylertown in Mississippi, about an hour outside of New Orleans. There, Best Friends Animal Society had plenty of room to house these special animals. Volunteers came from around the world to help care for the hundreds and hundreds of dogs, cats, reptiles, birds, and farm animals that were displaced in the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina. They set up shelters with dry beds, and the animals had lots of food, water, love, and attention. The dogs got walked several times a day. I got to take care of 95 cats. I would get up at 6 a.m., clean their cages, give them food, water, and lots of love, and then 6 hours later I would start the process all over again. The generosity of people was astounding. They donated everything from cat and dog food, kitty litter, crates, leashes, bedding, and toys, to human food, blankets, clothes, and bottled water. I will never forget the compassion of so many people for the victims of Hurricane Katrina, both for humans and animals. Volunteers worked around the clock trying to locate the owners of these pets. We put them all on Pet Finder. Many of these pets were reunited with their families right there at Tylertown. The rest were taken to animal shelters all over the country, and they were found foster homes until owners could be located, or they were adopted into new homes. Even to this day, there are still reunions of people and their pets. It was a very happy day when a dog or a cat got to go home. Lots of joy and tears of happiness. On the day that I left, this mama kitty was having kittens. It was a kind of reminder to me about how constant but fragile life is, and that even though there was so much death and destruction, life still goes on. It just keeps going on. And I feel honored to be a part of the rescue mission in New Orleans and to have helped the lives of those few animals who needed me.